And we are live. Part two. This is the second attempt of recording this.
That's all
So,
right. At least we can make it better.
yeah, exactly right. We had a practice run. Now we're
Yeah.
good to go. So, everyone, this is Darren Meachem. Thank you so much for joining us and talking. You are Australia's first water sommelier, which is pretty cool. And yeah, it's So a bit of context here. We've known each other for, I don't know, like a couple. Probably followed on Instagram for a couple years and chatted throughout about coffee and water and
That's it.
We've got pretty good, I don't know, relationship when it comes to Aquacode as well. You're the importer of Aquacode in Australia, so it's
Yeah.
I think today I kind of just wanted to go over some like interview style questions.
Yeah.
Try
No trouble at
to
all.
yeah. Did you want to, I don't know, introduce yourself a little bit more or?
Perfect. Yeah. Darren, been working in coffee for a while, but also my side hobby is actually falling in water, as in learning more about water. And I wanted to understand why my water was different. So I studied and became Australia's water sommelier. There's probably only about 100, 150 in the whole world,
Wow.
and only me in Australia. So it can be done.
Yep.
Well, I'd like to have more people so I can say we can work more in Australia. But yeah, that's basically what I'm doing. I'm sharing my passion about water, flavour, sensory,
Yep.
not just for coffee or water, but even sake or wine or food or
Right.
everything. If you think about it, it's actually different. Just slowing down what you're doing and instead of hoofing down something to eat or drink, thinking about what you're doing, and then you can understand why things cost certain, have that value to it. Or so
100%.
that's what more about slowing down and looking at the sensory side of things we just take for granted.
100%. And like, I guess it's so true about where, once you start tasting these nuances and kind of opening that mind, it transfers into pretty much everything you put into your mouth or even just your smell. Food, water, coffee.
Smells the biggest thing of that. Like if I blindfold you and I hold an apple in front of your nose and give you a raw potato, you'll think it's an apple because the nose is like it is most of all. I'm not scientifically proven here. I've just seen people do that. But
right.
All about just slowing down and thinking about what you're doing. So I've tricked your nose into saying it's an apple.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah. So yeah, I think like I've got some pretty in-depth questions, but I've also got some sort of entry-level ones as well. Like trying to go into, I guess, talking to an audience that is, into coffee, but also might think that, this is all a little bit snobby. Do you know what I mean? Some people
I understand.
Don't understand.
You need to keep it so we can all understand what we're talking about.
Correct. Yeah, and like there's I think like we all start from somewhere, and like some people either do want to explore it and some people don't want to explore it, but we're here having that conversation. So yeah, I guess the first question is, why does water taste different? What is it that's playing a part?
The biggest thing about water that I'm referring to is mineral water. It is even tap water itself. Water has a source.
Right.
And the biggest factor for flavour is terroir.
Right. Gotcha.
Yeah, so that's the simplest way of describing it. It tastes different because the terroir is different and the type of source where the water is from.
So what does terroir?
Same with coffee, for example. A Brazilian coffee at a lower altitude will taste different to a high altitude Ethiopian.
Gotcha.
Not just because of the varietal, but also because where it's from, the altitude, the terroir again. So in that sort of sense.
Gotcha. Okay. So that's that. You'd say that would be like the main sort of contributing difference.
I think the main difference between mineral waters,
Yep.
that would be it. Yeah.
Okay.
The main difference is terroir and
Okay.
whereas location
Gotcha.
and the type of source. Those are the
Right.
three things. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So there's different sources of water. So yeah.
Yeah. And I've noticed behind you, you've got quite the array of different water bottles.
It's actually it's very unstacked at the moment. I've been
Is
hacking
it?
into it the last 3 days because we're sitting on really high temperatures in Brisbane. So
Right.
my son and I have been hacking into it. I have to refill it up, but yeah.
Well, it looks a lot better than mine. I'm going to say that.
Yeah, it's probably about 60 different brands on there. So
Wow.
yeah.
Awesome. And I can also is that some manta ray on the coffee shelf behind you?
Oh yeah. It's a
Manta
little bit
ray?
there. It's an old bag, but yes, a little bit of
Fantastic.
manta ray there. Yeah.
Awesome. Loving the display. All right. So I guess like the next thing is so we've gone over taste, and you've said it's mainly to do with the terroir, but I'd imagine that would also have a lot to do with the mineral content. Is that?
Yes, exactly that.
So
the mineral content is all based on the type of sauce
right.
it's in too. Like a sauce where it's spent a lot of time underground
Right.
will create a different mineral composition
Gotcha.
compared to a sauce that hasn't had much exposure.
So you're not okay. So at the end of the day, it's sort of the mineral composition that makes
not
up
so
the
much
taste.
the total TDS. It's more the type of minerals within that TDS.
Gotcha. Okay.
Like you can do a side-by-side tasting of a total dissolved solids,
Yep.
which is the amount of minerals within the water.
Right.
A total dissolved solids of 30 for two different waters.
Yep.
But they could taste completely different.
Right.
Because of the type of source and the terroir they're from. Like one could be a rainwater, one could be an artesian water.
Yep.
So that artesian water spend a bit more time underwater, yet rainwater captures a lot of stuff from the atmosphere. So it was completely different type of source.
Gotcha. Awesome.
So yeah.
Okay.
I'm drinking two different waters now, but
Yep.
they're completely different. That's why it's interesting. I have a low TDS water,
Yep.
and a very super high at the same time, just because I want to have that experience.
Right. Do you, because like when you do that and you compare two different things side by side, I think that's where the magic happens. Like with anything, I mean, when you drink water, it's very easy to say, oh, it's just water. Yeah, it's just
same with drinking coffee. Like, how's your coffee today? Oh, it's great. Yeah. That's it, because you've only got one coffee.
100%. But the moment you do like a cupping, or you've got multiple waters that side by side that you're tasting, and you're like, oh, this one tastes a little bit more metallic, and this one's a little bit more like earthy. It's like you can kind of start differentiating the two. Yeah.
But the biggest thing though of water is not so much the flavor. You're going to get more about the texture.
Right. Okay. So
texture
would that be like body or
the body? Yeah, the body. How heavy it sits on your tongue and your aftertaste.
Right.
Because that's where your receptors will talk to your brain about what it tastes like.
Right. Oh
yeah.
Wow.
So it's like for me, I have a lot of waters that I go into cafes and they pull their water and give me their house water.
Yeah.
And for me, I know it sounds strange, it's dry.
Right. Okay.
Because it doesn't finish across my tongue.
Right.
You drink it, and then as soon as it goes halfway through your tongue, you can't taste anything. So it's dry at the end. Right. So it has got no body into it.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. And what do you think that's caused by? Is it?
That's caused by filtration, removing all the minerals.
Right. Okay. So it'd be closer to like a distilled sort of.
Well, most of Melbourne's water is pretty much like that sometimes.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. But even Brisbane, when it goes through a filtration system, it's still got that. Because filtration water is still good, but I can still taste the chlorine in no matter what city I'm in.
Right. Okay.
Because I know what it tastes like without it.
Yeah.
And then when you have it, it's like understanding what a water, like a coffee with sugar and without sugar. It's all that sort of thing. And if you've never had a coffee without sugar, you don't know.
Gotcha.
Yeah. You never had a pie without sauce, the same thing. It's sort of
It's like, and then okay, that's a good way of putting it.
Well, think of it as a seasoning for when you're cooking.
Yep.
If you always cook without seasoning, then you're not going to know.
Yep. True. Okay. All right. So I think this one is, we kind of touched on it a little bit, not too much, but is distilled or pure water good to drink? Just straight out of the box.
As a TDS of 0, you're
Yes.
referring to?
Yep.
No, it is not.
Okay. And why?
I'm not a doctor, so I'm not going to say don't drink that.
Yep.
But through the health reports and benefits that I have read or seen, and through my studies, 0 minerals will not be good for you.
Gotcha.
From what I understand, it removes minerals from your body because your water is soluble.
Sure.
Water is soluble. It all it does, it absorbs minerals that go through you, so it takes away some of yours.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's like, I don't know, I guess you could call it Australian grocery shopping false advertisement in a way where you've got...
I wouldn't say false advertising. The word distilled and pure have been misrepresented, I think.
Right.
Because a pure water is water that's just come out of a spring and bottled up. The word pure is not, that's not a good word anymore.
Right.
And people don't know what pure is. It's like, like, what's coffee? Is coffee a fruit? Is coffee a bean? Is coffee a cherry? Is coffee a drink? Is coffee a beverage? What's coffee now? Like, the word coffee can refer to so much.
So
a coffee tree. It's the same with the word pure for water. It's like, I don't believe it is very good to drink pure water.
Okay.
Which is why even tap water is probably better.
Yeah. Just because it's got some sort of stuff in it. Yeah.
Well, I know a while ago, I don't know how old you are, but I would never buy pure water in the supermarket. It was always distilled water, and it had "do not drink" on the bottle.
Yep. Okay.
And often it would be used to fill up your radiator or your iron. For appliances. It's you wouldn't be using it to drink, and now it's on the shelf.
Yeah.
So I don't understand why, but
yeah. Okay. Awesome. Yeah. Thanks for kind of clearing that up a bit and touching on that. What water should we use to brew coffee with? So I think this kind of falls nicely into the whole Aquacode sort of.
It does. Water to brew coffee, it all comes down to what you like out of a coffee.
Right.
There's no one water.
Yep.
There's no one water or one Aquacode. I've got some here. One water or one Aquacode.
Yep.
To make a coffee.
Right.
You just choose what you like that brings the best representation of your coffee.
Okay.
This is the everyday today coffees. It's not maybe competition level or competing, because those small margins will adjust your points at the end. So, but you find something that you like, and then understand how it tastes before you put coffee into it.
Gotcha.
Water's soluble. So depending on how many minerals are in it, sometimes the first part of a brew is normally you could call it the most unpleasant part of your coffee.
Right. Okay.
So that is where you want to draw out the quickest and the shortest amount of those first part of your brew. You can do an experimentation and just do a 4 brew and put 4 different servers underneath each pour and just taste each pour. And you'll find the most sweetest and tastiest will be the last part of the pour. Right. The first part, you've got your acidity and your bitterness coming through that.
Gotcha.
So, like, not just a clean acidity, more the crazy acidity right at the front.
Sure. So, like, it's very intense at the very beginning, and then it kind of dilutes outwards.
Yeah, I don't know if you've ever tried it's like 3 different servers and just try one.
Yeah, I have done
and
that.
Taste each.
Yeah. It's like I think someone said that they've done it with espresso too, where they taste the different sort
There's heaps of people out there who understand and have done full degrees and studies about water for coffee. I'm not one of those people, but I like to make my water based on what Aquacode does, because it's easy, simple, and if I want to, sometimes I'll use a mineral water.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Straight into the kettle.
It's not the cheapest way to do it, but it brings out different flavors for me that I want to share.
Fantastic. Awesome. So you literally just straight into the kettle, turn it on.
Yep, straight in the kettle. I obviously don't put a whole bottle in. I know how much I want to brew because I've got 2 kettles here. Sometimes I'm brewing with 2 different waters at 2 different temperatures for the same coffee.
Fantastic. Awesome.
Quite often I'm using my first 2 pours as 1 mineral water. The next pour will be a different water.
Wow. So you're changing the actual... so in one brew of coffee, you're using 2 different waters from 2 different kettles.
Yeah.
Love that.
At different temperatures.
At different temperatures. Wow, that's a first. I've never heard of someone doing multiple temperatures for one coffee.
Depending on the coffee, this is like I do this a lot for my top end stuff that I'm playing with.
Yeah,
that's what I want to do to get what I want out of it. Like I'll change my waters up, and if I don't have a water I want to use, and I'm not sure, I'll just use my Aquacode that I have always made up behind me.
Yep.
And then I start from that as a base. I always use my Aquacode base water.
Gotcha.
That
sets the bar.
It's behind me. Yep. It's always behind me. Yeah, and it's great. It gives me ideas where I want to go. If I like it at that, I keep it at that. Fantastic. If I want to make slight changes, but because I don't make up little batches of Aquacode, I have 15 litres at a time. I can't make a small change. So for me, I might just change to a mineral water because it's simpler.
Gotcha.
Yeah, personally.
Yeah. Awesome. So moving back to, I guess we kind of touched on some advanced stuff there. So moving back to some simple terms, what do you wish more people knew about water just in general?
Just one thing.
Yep.
Just one thing is water has taste.
Water has taste. Awesome.
I'm drinking 2 side by side. This one here, it has a mineral composition of 1,300.
Wow, okay. That's a lot.
It's sweet. Yep. It's creamy. It's got that texture of like custard across your tongue.
Right.
It's the weight that sits there. It's really, really nice. And I know it's because it's not a water that tastes like anyone can ever expect. And I'm drinking a rainwater at a TDS of 30 next to it.
Right. Yeah. Which is super low. Yeah.
And it's actually like they're both from completely different sources. They're both Australian.
Yeah.
And this one, it's got that crisp, it's fresh, but it's also got a bit of body to it because of the type of source it's from. So water has flavour. So every time you get a glass of water, try and get 2 different ones and just taste the difference.
Right.
Or try the same glass at different temperatures.
Yeah. Okay. So even that changes.
I my water at room temperature. Right. I don't have water in the fridge. It's all room temperature.
Yep.
That's where I get the most flavour.
Okay. So at room temperature, you find that's when you can get taste the most out of that water.
Yes. Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah. Because when as it's closer to your mouth temperature.
Right. So I guess that would have something to do with how your taste buds work, or
exactly. It's the same as coffee. As it gets cooler, it can become sweeter and more delicate.
Yep. Because the taste will change over time
because it's closer to your mouth temperature.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
You experience more of each taste bud based on the temperature.
Gotcha. Yeah. Fantastic. Awesome. And
so water has taste is what the main thing was.
Water has taste. Awesome. What's something that absolutely blew your mind when you've learnt about, obviously, to do with water? Or was there anything that was kind of mind-blowing to you?
Always blew my mind is how different water can be based on pairing it with food or wine. Right. Literally, I've done a couple of those videos on my socials already where I'm having a glass of wine or having some sake or having something, and yet I'm having a glass of water next to it, but I'm using 2 different ones. Right. And what blew my mind how I'm getting completely different flavour experience by just changing my glass of water.
Yeah. So you're keeping the food or the alcohol the same, and then you're drinking it with different water.
Yes.
And your experience will be completely different.
Exactly.
Wow. All right.
It's the same with when I have a coffee. Like I'll make coffee and I pour a glass of water based on what coffee I've brewed.
Yep.
Because I know a certain water will have a better experience or prepare my mouth for that coffee. Right. So I think that's what I've understood how water is, and I appreciate it because it's actually it's supporting, like the supporting actor.
Yeah, it's
of,
like
of the team.
Gotcha. So it's almost like a compliment to whatever you're doing. Yeah.
Well, think of it. The most secure stool or table is a 3-legged table.
Right.
Like quite often in Asia, you say the 3-legged table is most secure in balance. So the first leg is your food that your chef has prepared.
Yep.
Like the second leg is your wine or your beverage.
Yep.
And your third leg is that water to hold it all together.
Right. Gotcha.
Then when I go to a cafe, I get the meal, I get my breakfast, and I get my coffee.
Yep.
And I need that water as well, because if you don't have that water, they're going to fight against each other.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's like you need that sort of balance between all three.
Not so much to wash away; it's more to or rinse. It's more to prepare.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's such a nice way of thinking about it, because in all honesty, when I'm at a cafe, I don't really think about the water. It's more about the food or the coffee. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe that will change now after this.
That's the way it is. Just think about it. Like every time I go into a cafe, with all the options I get is still sparkling, and that's it. They're still sparkling, and we should be given more options.
What sort of options would you like to see in a cafe? Or
a separate water menu to offer to complement certain types of food on the menu. Or when someone's ordering, if you order this water will bring out those different experiences in your mouth. That's sort of, if they don't want them, that's great. But then just have the option there for someone who does want it.
And do you know anywhere that does that? Because I've never heard of having a
there
water
is
menu.
places that do that. There's probably about 10 restaurants in the world that have water menus.
Wow. Okay, so it's not.
I'm working on a few places to get some into Australia. Hopefully by mid next year. So
awesome. Any in Melbourne?
Well, not at the moment. At the moment, there's Brisbane, Sydney. I'm looking at.
Yep.
But not so much in Melbourne. I need soon, so you never know what happens.
All right. Well, I'm sure you'll have to keep us up to date if that starts happening. But I'll definitely.
It will happen. It will happen.
All right.
People will become
when that happens.
When is the best way to
right.
That's it.
Awesome, Darren. It's been an absolute pleasure. To everybody who's watching, if you have any questions, drop a comment down below, or you can absolutely hit Darren up on his socials. What's your Instagram handle, or what's the best place to?
Just flip me a message on Instagram. I'm sure you'll have it on below as well.
All right.
All my contact details will be here. But any messages, anything about water related, Lee and myself, whatever, get hold of me, and happy to talk and chat and even sit down and have a taste.
That's it, dude. You're an absolute legend. Thank you so much for coming on, and have a fantastic rest of your day.
Cheers, Liam.
All right. Thanks, mate.